Just on it.
I got a minute on the screen to
Yeah.
wait.
Wait here a second.
Oh, here we go. Come right in,
Right,
Mr. Bright.
we'll give him the
I'm
hour.
gonna call the meeting to order. Do you want a comfy chair?
No,
You sure?
yeah,
You're a little older than me. I'll give it up for you.
well, thank you, but you were pretty comfortable.
First item is to approve the minutes of April 9th, 2024.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second. Second. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed, carried, okay. New business. North Dock and public update. That's for you, John.
Yep, you've all probably noticed the North Dock ramp is in place. Both the other ramps are gone to Southwest Harbor. May has, invoiced Southwest Harbor to get paid for those two. I don't know if you're aware, but we sold the two previous ramps that we replaced to Southwest Harbor for $25,000. They were in need and it's saving them a bunch of money on having brand new ones built. So that was a nice benefit, and the 25,000 will end up back in our coffers somewhere. I don't know exactly where yet, but probably our undesignated fund, which should be.
And the paving to be done down here.
I'm waiting on a date from Greg. The plants just opened in the last week, so hopefully before Memorial Day, they'll be all shined up.
Good.
There's a transition plate for each one being built. I'm waiting on a date for installation on those also, but
Is that for the land side where that big gap is where you have wood?
yes. Other than that, we're happy with everything. It's all there, and
They look good.
a lot of people have already complimented on how nice at low tide it is coming up over those ramps, because it's such a less of a transition than it used to be. But all in all, pretty good. That's really all I have for those, but
All right. Second item is the Seal Harbor restrooms.
at this point, this is kind of a work in progress. Temporarily, Seal Harbor is gonna go back in time to two porta potties. They're waiting on some grant funding and try to find out where the money's gonna come to put those back into place and do whatever's needed to try to keep them from being destroyed in another storm. Insurance company only offered the town like $14,000 to help repair them. Leaves about a $50,000 to $60,000 gap in what was needed to put them back like they were, so.
Is there a pump out station over there?
There is a pump station, a lift station that will lift the sewer from those restrooms up into the town line.
I'm talking about down on the floats for the public.
There is not,
Okay.
there's nobody to operate them, even if they were there.
Right.
They can come over to Northeast and
Yeah.
pump, or go to Clifton, or
Chris.
We just got 25 grand, we weren't expecting, we're halfway there on funding the other money.
it's not our funding to take care of, Chris.
So
That belongs to Public Works.
okay, so we couldn't help them out at all, or,
I've helped them with some, grant funding that could come from, putting back, helping with fishermen's access. I was told that restroom where it was serves, a good majority of it is served by commercial fishermen, that they would, almost definitely consider that, a grant request.
nice, thank
So
you.
I've helped them pass on the information, and I'll help them with whatever I can to secure the funding. But I think they've got a few lines, and FEMA may kick in and take care of it all anyways.
Could the buildings get washed right away?
No, it's about 10 or 15 feet off of where it used to set. Really, our ramps that sit over there in the parking lot in the winter kept it from going potentially further and maybe off the other side.
Right.
It actually bent one of our ramps a little bit. But it fetched them up and
We didn't have any floats down at the time.
the dinghy dog float was there, but that's tucked in on
Oh,
the other
okay.
side. That didn't sustain any damage, so.
John, what about your request for electricity for the lights and stuff?
It's underway.
Awesome, and
Derlin gave me the preliminary, give it the green light and there's on the next selectmen's agenda, there's $2,100 for temporary electricity to run the light and the hoist.
great, and what about water? Is that came from the other end, right?
Next few days.
Yeah.
I
that's-
I just finished Northeast Harbor today. Everything's running here today and
No, I mean, it's accessible,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of.
No,
Yeah, cool,
yeah,
great,
half hour, 45 minutes when I get over there. As long as there's nothing I haven't noticed yet that gets stove up water wise.
and I noticed you moved the docks the way that you said.
Yeah,
so,
they've been
yeah.
moved. The docks are seem to be doing good. It's not really interfering with anything. Splitting them and extending out another 20 feet like they've asked. We'll see what happens after all the boats are on the mooring.
Right,
That may or may not be possible.
yeah, I think you said you'd give it a year and see how it works
Just
out.
wanted to see what it's
Yep.
like in that new position with all the boats on the moorings.
Right,
Cause there's no place to move moorings over there.
I think with the space transition, it would be really helpful, you had that lettering for whatever each designated zone is.
They'll be lettered
Okay,
as
cool,
soon as we get a decent day and
yeah,
get over there with the stencils.
awesome,
Okay,
All in all, Seal Harbor, other than electricity and, water hooked up, it's functioning.
awesome, thanks.
all right. General issues? What do you got, Jim?
A private picture.
Private, oh.
No, I mean, I have some things that,
I know you do, Howie, now it's gonna,
I just got one quick thing.
Yeah.
So we have got to be out of here by 6 o'clock. They really would like us out of here by 5:30. Because they are killing the power to this room to install the permanent generator out here.
Yeah.
So
I
I don't know how
promise.
much.
I'd
We
like
will be out of here by
I'd
6
make a
o'clock.
motion that we end our meeting by 5:30, no matter what.
Yeah, we'll take care of it.
But we do have to do
We do
the
have to
commercial
get the
operator.
I know. Howie, I wanna let you go ahead, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to,
No, I think what Chris said is a good idea,
What?
let's do that.
Let's just get the commercial operators
all right,
out of the way, because we have to do that tonight.
okay, let's do that then, okay. We'll go on to the commercial operators. Everyone has reviewed all these operators. Any questions, comments?
I have concerns.
Go for it.
Mike Olson. He doesn't have a registered boat right now to do the work. And so for me, I think other people have come to us and asked for permits to do work here. And they're willing to work and they have boats and they'll buy the insurance they need. And so I feel that it's a disservice to those people that want to do work and are capable of doing the work now. And, each of them could have the same story about a future child in the rears that wants to learn the trade and wants to do the work as well.
So I'm gonna reference you, John. What's the status of Mike? Does he pay his
He
annual fee?
pays his annual fee and he registers a handful of passenger fees every year. But does he run? Has he run last year? No, he did not.
Does he still have that boat?
He still has. the boat. Yeah, I don't know what the status of it is. I think it's in repair or something.
Chris?
So I know John's we discussed about concerns and comments, and they need to be on a formal records, so our concerns, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, John's gonna write in a letter to these operators. So I don't know if it'd be fair, we could write, hey, if you're not operating, if you don't operate this season, or whatever our concerns may be, if you don't correct the things that are in non-compliance this year, you're waking the boats, your speed, you're not operating. That's in a letter form this year, next year, when we do this process, was this corrected? No, on to the next person.
Do we have something in there that says if you know, if you have it, you have to be running it, or?
Not necessarily, no.
Right, that's my problem about making up a new regulation. Because we don't have anything in there, and he's been living up to our existing obligations.
Well, then there's one technicality. And that's that he said that isn't carrying the insurance, the liability.
If he's not running, he,
Well, but we're requiring liability insurance for an application. So that's the technicality right there.
That is a technicality.
I mean, as much as your technicality of saying that we don't have the authority to say he can't.
Well, I understand. You know,
Yeah,
weaving our way around this, but, how does everyone feel about it?
I think if he's not using it, then use it or lose it.
We gave, back when he started with it, right, remember the boat was in tough shape and we gave him a lot of years to get it up and running to.
he did run for a number of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he just
But-
hasn't much in the last
Like,
Huh?
few years.
like our current ordinance doesn't give anything specific. I think that would be a wonderful thing for us to update our ordinance last year or for next year. That we put some kind of clause in there if you, unless with permission to miss a year, if you miss a year. For no reason, then there should be some sort of clause in there that.
I feel that we definitely have to have that kind of understanding up front.
But I don't think we can pull his permit because he hasn't been running, because it doesn't specifically say that if you don't run, you,
He didn't run it all last year?
well, I'm not trying to make hardship for anyone, so let's not hold them to the, liability insurance this year. That's not my
but
point.
I think it would be a wonderful thing for us to put in our ordinance for next year to be able to hold someone to that.
I do too. I think it needs to be, part of our regulations. And, then we don't have to sit here and,
Right.
So
Yeah,
the
it-
My favorite.
criteria now,
right,
it's operator's record of safety, compliance, courteous use of the float, public feedback, and other factors related to the safe and efficient use of the Northeast Harbor Marina.
Yeah, that doesn't really come close to saying.
I think if we
But
want
that's just
people
what-
running boats.
I
out
think
there,
if
we
we
put something.
specifically say, if you don't run for a 12 month period. And don't plan to run,
Right.
then that you're out. Do we have a waiting list, John, right now?
We don't have a waiting list, but there are people, I get 5 or 10 phone calls a year, people asking if there's any availability.
We've had people come here to ask and we turn them.
Yeah, I've got another issue with this too, but I think residents of the town of Mount Desert ought to have a priority. And I'm gonna say, I sat in one of these meetings one time and 6 applications came from 2 people. And they weren't residents of the town and there was one resident that lost out, which. I just felt it was totally bogus.
Can we do that off of
I
a
think,
pier that was built by federal money? Cause I know at some
It is-
point.
yes, we can because it's been taken away. This was,
I know there was
this
stuff in
thing
the harbor.
all goes
before.
back to the town.
The Army
Fed has no
Corps.
control over it.
Even the
The
pier,
pro-
I mean, I know the harbor was.
The
out of
harbor
federal.
itself is the dredging and all that, we did get out of that, but the commercial dock, Sean Murphy got a grant from the feds and the state to pay to build that. That's one of the few things that we're still holding because of the grant money we've accepted.
I'm not sure about that,
I'd
John,
like to
because
read
I
more
think,
information on that,
uh,
that
but-
grant reads.
I think our senator had that all resolved.
That was just the
That
hard.
was just to get out of the cores project.
That was the core thing for the warrant.
Okay, but
How
I'm still,
many years is it?
doesn't change my mind about, residents having a priority.
I agree 100%.
I do too.
And I,
This is stuff we're discussing when we do our ordinance change in the fall.
Yeah,
But can we agree that whatever our concerns are for each operator that we're renewing their license, be written in a letter and sent to them? Like you, John, plans to say, hey, here's our concerns, so they have a heads up before next year, what we may change in the ordinance.
that's more than fair.
I think
I
if you
agree.
sent them a letter that said this, it's not in our ordinance currently, but we want to put this in our ordinance, so if you want to continue,
Just
you
whatever.
may not be able to next year.
Yeah,
John, would you be willing to do that, writing a letter just saying?
That was my idea.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, I thought,
So,
It's a good idea, right?
so what I think we need to do tonight, though, is still on Mike Olson. Let's finish Mike Olson and do each of these one by one,
Okay.
so Chris can write this stuff down, so I have the list of what we've come up with for each one. So,
So I mean, we'll accept Mike Olson this year because of all the reasons that,
Like conditionally.
yeah, condition.
I don't think we can condition
Right.
him until we've got it in
Yeah.
our ordinance saying that if
Right.
you don't run for a 12-month period without
Right.
authorization,
But if we,
there are
a
special
concern.
circumstances that I could see somebody not running for a year, and, you know, there's probably dozens of them that we would accept, but just not running because you're.
insurance. He still needs insurance because he could take any boat out and run it out of here. Doesn't have to be the sunrise, he could run it out for. So he needs insurance. That's, to me, is the bottom line. He needs insurance.
I do in some part agree with that, because he could just,
But Chris just read you the list of
No, but I-
requirements.
no, but they have to have licenses, they have to be insured, that's up here.
That's the requirement for the permit,
Right.
not for the.
Our review.
Yeah, the review.
So the town, the upcoming C verified size, license, passenger, capacity, approved vessel, maximum number of trips for the amount of time for these trips. A certificate of liability insurance, which names the town of Mount Desert as an additional insured, a copy of the vessel's operator's current Coast Guard license, a copy of each inspected vessel's current certificate of inspection, as well as other provisions consistent with this ordinance. So
So
the
he
town
could-
needs to provide the contract form.
So technically, he hasn't completed his application because he hasn't provided all
technically,
the
he can't
documents.
run a boat out of there, because he hasn't provided that, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he skated on, you know, did he do 2 years ago? Did he make a run?
Well, it also says,
No, but he's smart enough to come in and pay for a handful of passengers.
so it also says that they have to, where the includes a commitment to operate for this upcoming season. That's the first, then the first paragraph, the application for it. An operating license agreement.
Okay, so it is in there.
Yeah.
he paid for passengers but not been insured?
Before we even get to it down here, that's the first.
That'd be wrong.
Yeah.
So it's in there.
Yeah, it's first sentence.
Yeah, he doesn't have a commitment.
Put it in the list and we'll write a letter. If we got it,
What
we're
page
good.
is that, Chris?
It's 8.88, page 26 of 35.
And I have no beef with Mike Olson, you know,
Oh,
it's just, you know, it's just
there's
the,
nothing
it's
to
the
me,
process of
this
this.
is your guys' review.
Yeah,
I'll write the letters and send them out however you want
I
them
just,
sent.
like I said, I just feel bad for the people that would wanna use a permit for those.
Oh, it
reasons.
completely makes sense to me.
So you've had no communication from him about his intent with the situation?
He
No.
gave his intent in the.
No, he pays his fees and that's all he's done for the last couple of years.
So is his boat?
I recommend that,
I don't know
John
what
write,
the situation. is.
I recommend that John write him a letter because, with these concerns. And, saying that, we'd like to know his intent. If he doesn't want to operate, then he's gonna lose his position.
Well, I wouldn't even say the concerns. These are requirements for you to maintain your access to the harbor. You've got to, this is what you have to do.
You have to commit.
You
Okay,
have to commit and you have to have that.
And if that commitment isn't met this year, you're down next year.
Right.
No,
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 he's done this
He's
year.
gotta be
He
done
doesn't
this
get
year.
a permit for this year.
Because he didn't do it.
Because he
He hasn't done
hasn't
it.
committed for this.
He hasn't
year.
done it.
But he didn't say he was gonna commit.
No, he said, he specifically said he's not gonna commit. He said give me some time and I want my kid to learn the business. But, you know, just hold my spot for me and I'll be there soon. That's what he said. He didn't say
Can I
anything.
see his letter?
I was thinking his letter said they were gonna go this summer, but maybe I missed.
I didn't.
I thought he was saying he committed to operate, just to keep it going.
I could be wrong, I don't know, that's the way I was thinking.
So we need to go by the name of the organization with the licenses under Sunrise Charters.
All right, here's his letter. Maybe, yeah, maybe I misremembered.
The business profile would be to continue running towards our Northeast Urban Sewer. So he's saying he's not gonna be held, he's not gonna hold the 2 scheduled times. Internet and online bookings made these times obsolete.
Is his boat inspected? Because he can't run his boat if it's not inspected, right?
If it's less than 6, or if it's 6 people, he can.
Yeah, he could do,
Six less than 6 or 6 or less.
Yeah, the intent is online booking may be obsolete, because your profile will continue running towards.
the business profile would be to continue. It doesn't say it is, it says it would be. You know, like, it's in the future.
Well, I think that's semantics.
Okay, all right, well, however you look at it, the business profile would be to continue running tours out of Northeast Harbor and Seal Harbor.
I mean.
All right,
continue
I guess-
what he's doing.
Okay, I guess he is, then all he needs is insurance.
We will find out when we send a letter.
Yeah,
So Sunrise,
Nothing, get a response more than threatening to take something away from somebody to get a response back.
yeah, I guess so.
I think we definitely want to address this in our ordinance, so. We're trying to be kind, and some are a little more hard nosed than others.
If we could tighten that,
Tighten
a
it
little
up,
bit,
that's a good
make
way
it
to say it.
ironclad.
And should we address, so if an operator's paying for passengers that didn't exist, that doesn't seem right.
I mean, you're on some level, I guess it's deceitful, but I don't understand
Well, I
the
mean,
semantics of it.
I think he's been, you know, I think we could be, it says right there, he's gotta commit to running the boats this year and he's gotta have the insurance.
Exactly. Somebody want to make a motion?
motion to write a letter to the Sunrise.
Asking for a commitment, or if there's no commitment, then then he'll lose his spot.
And proof of insurance,
Well, that's just part of the whole thing.
all part of the commitment.
So just motion to Sunrise Charters for a commitment to operate this coming year.
Yes, if there's no
And-
commitment. Then.
And also inspection also, if he's going to run it for a number of people. If he's gonna go over 6, right? No,
He's a 6-pack boat, he does not require an inspection.
he never, ever uses inspection. Okay.
Nobody,
There was a lot of discussion on that.
I think we asked for a commitment and insurance, so I mean.
right,
I'll second that, if you wanna go with that.
So,
okay,
can I repeat the motion?
yes, please,
Is this your motion now?
yes.
All right. So motion for Sunrise Charters. A motion for a letter from Sunrise Charters for a commitment to operate, your commitment and insurance,
Yeah,
Yes,
and insurance. To operate this coming year,
right.
2024.
I second that.
Any other discussion?
Proof of insurance. I'm just trying to be good about it, that's it.
Let John handle the
Okay,
content of the letter.
good enough.
Any other comments? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. This is in line with what we want to discuss anyway, so I'm gonna go
Pick the next boat.
pick the next vote.
Should we do concerns, or we vote if there's no concerns on the, do you want to do each one?
I think you better go through each vote
Okay.
and just.
Put every boat on record and
Yeah,
that way
Just
we,
tell me the chart company name.
Rick's gonna pick the next one.
Okay, this is Casco Charters.
Denied.
I've got some concerns.
Guy's grumpy as hell.
I'll give you $100 for the boat.
I
Give me 150.
accept, I
Motion to
accept
accept.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I have to second it?
Second it. I don't have.
Let's, we'll, we don't have to do them all individual. Yeah, I guess we do.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay,
I second it.
any other discussion? All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried, okay.
That's how I'm taking that out, the difference.
You get it. Cadillac water taxi. Any concerns?
I'll tell you my concerns, other than the speeding in the harbor.
Okay,
The two boat thing. And I know it's if one boat's broke down or not, but. You know, the Cadillac's going into Southwest Harbor, the other boat's coming in Northeast Harbor, but then an hour later, the Cadillac's coming in Northeast Harbor and the other boat's going in Southwest Harbor. It's two boats coming into Northeast Harbor on a one boat thing,
okay,
and it's not because the boat's broken.
okay. I'm not defending this or not, but I would suggest it's similar to Beal and Bunker's situation. They have two boats down here.
But they're permitted for two boats.
All right, I'm bringing that up.
But he's not bringing two boats in here at the same
Beal
time.
and Bunker?
No,
Yes,
not
I've
Cadillac.
sniffed him and caught him doing both boats at the same time. And I've told him if one boat is broke down, if he calls, I would give him permission to run the other boat until the other boat's fixed. But I did catch him running two boats at the same time.
Okay, that's a legitimate concern and I would suggest, unless, is there anything else about Cadillac that you,
The speeding in the harbor,
the speeding is definitely.
I
I wrote that down.
I know my boat idles at 5 point something knots.
Oh, we're talking about weight, actually.
Well, yeah, but.
Yeah.
But there's a weight coming off, but if you're at Clifton fueling up or something, you notice it when he goes.
I hear you, I agree.
Versus, it might be a little bow heavy too.
And, you know, honestly, from the infractions of his parking. You know, I mean, not only is he not a good citizen on the water, but he caused a lot of parking issues for us.
You're talking automobile?
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
Two separate things. I don't think
that's true,
you,
you're right.
one of mine is he's abusive of his dock parking time.
Okay,
Let's make
Well,
a,
that's not true about parking, because it is in our ordinance. So any proposals from approved operators to change operations or any manner which would increase use of marina ticket booth or parking should be treated as proposal for a new expanded business. So if he's abusing the parking as an operator,
With his
Maybe
own
now.
personal vehicle.
I'm just saying.
I don't know if you could link it to it, but definitely abusive of the dock parking time,
We're at the public float or the commercial float?
both,
So,
but the commercial flow.
And there's also a lot of passenger pickup on the public float also.
yeah, and you have to go to the commercial, right? To pick up.
I recommend a letter
Yeah.
to Cadillac. Voicing our concerns and reminding him of compliance to the regulations.
Second,
Go ahead.
I second.
Any other comments?
When you spoke to him about the two boats, did he do it? Did he stop doing it?
As far as I know.
I'm gonna ask us to go right along, because we've only got a half hour. Any other comments?
So a letter of concerns and violations, or what was it, regulation concerns and proper
Yeah.
Warning,
warning,
Yeah.
concerns
Concerns in the warning, speeding, and the use of two vessels.
Yeah.
And the use of the public dock.
John knows what they all are.
Warning that,
And that's as a condition of approving his use of the public commercial dock.
Yeah.
Okay,
On a separate note, I don't know if you folks know, but he is undergoing prostate cancer treatments right now, I think.
we're gonna be mean again.
But no, I'm just,
I hear you.
it is what it is. I'm just, if
Yeah.
you didn't know.
Is that everyone in agreement with that idea?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Carry, all right. Beal and Bunker,
This would cover both boats.
we would, this is the application. I've got, well, this is the double B. And C Queen. That's it. Are they in compliance with everything, John?
Yeah, I mean, they provide insurance, they've been pretty good anytime I've had any issue with them. They're very good coming in and out of the harbor. I don't get complaints on them going fast.
No more leaving it in reverse at the dock.
I haven't seen that. I honestly, the first few years that the brothers were running, we had a few concerns, but they cleaned up their act. They're taking better care of their boats.
Yep.
I honestly don't have any complaints. Anytime I brought anything to them, they've been right on top of stopping it or taking care of it, so. I think they cancel their service way more than they should, but that's really nothing for us to talk about.
My only concern is the freight. The freight, every time where the freight can be left anywhere, not in a designated spot. The yellow painted area, and they should be responsible for that, moving it or telling there's people that are dropping off, they charge. And the passengers pulling their car up and they let them walk their stuff down, instead of taking their stuff out of the vehicle, putting it in the spot for, loading goods and driving off. They all walk it down and they help them walk one vehicle at a time. Well, that backs up the whole use of the pier, and then it makes it longer if everyone back out or just walk their stuff down.
But I don't know if that's exactly something we can pin on Beal and Bunker. That's
It's
just
their
the
passengers, their freight,
Cranberry
their cargo.
Island.
It's their cargo, their home, so that's absolutely them.
I don't see that's any different than that. Fire truck sitting there for an hour waiting for a boat to come in, so.
I kind of agree with, John. The passenger deal down there is.
Like regulating common sense or something.
Yeah, I mean,
True.
Trying to regulate an anthill.
And all of the cargo that's sitting there is not necessarily theirs either.
no, there's a lot of restaurant stuff there that,
Alright,
Kind of gray area, I would say.
alright.
motion to accept and approve, so move. Second, Beal and Bunker. Any other comments? All in favor, raise your hand. Aye. Opposed, carried, all right. Allen Associates, this is the Sea Prince Cruises.
Move to accept.
Move to accept.
I have no concern.
Any discussion? Second, moved and seconded to accept. All in favor, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay. Alsford.com, this is the, John Dwelly, what's the name of his boat?
The delight.
Delight, right?
Yeah.
Any comments?
Move to accept.
I have no concerns at all.
Move to accept, seconded. All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Sail Acadia,
2 6-pack sailboats and the Elizabeth T, which can carry like 22, I think, something like that.
something like that.
Yeah, I have no concerns.
And the Elizabeth T's not in here very often, right? In the summertime.
It doesn't run the early
Yeah.
run anymore, so it's in here less, couple times a day, maybe.
They had no insurance, so.
I have,
They have insurance. You gotta remember, all of these boats aren't gonna start running until at least tomorrow the 15th. So they have to provide insurance before they start running off our dock, and, they're not gonna carry insurance during the winter when their boats are.
Yeah, they better, so.
But I think the policy that I probably have from last year was for a calendar year.
Yeah.
So I probably have the one that expires on May 15th or June 1st or whatever it is. But all of these boats that run and provide insurance.
So, the Elizabeth T is 21 passengers, and the other two vessels, the sailboats, are 6.
Any problem with it, Bill? I have no concerns.
Motion to accept? Second. Moved and seconded, all raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed, that's it. Oh, this is,
Did we get them all?
No, what about,
Island. Is this?
5:30 vote? And then-
Oh, yes. You guys, I emailed that one.
Yeah, this is,
Town of Cranberry Isle.
Cranberry Isle Commuter Ferry Service.
Which is,
This is we asked for this, to be included,
which is from October 15 to May 1.
and they've met all the obligations with the.
They are, I have no issue.
Yeah, I've.
Motion to approve.
Second, motion to approve and seconded, all in favor, raise your hand. Aye. Opposed, carried. That's all I have,
I think we've got them all.
we got them all. Okay. So I think it's only fair to give Mike Olson a heads up. And,
Every one of
if
them,
we're gonna change some. Things in our ordinance, I think we ought to make it really clear. About, Annual operation or reason not. To ask for an extension. And the other thing I would really like to see in the ordinance is, a priority to, town residents over out of town people.
I would. I mean, I think maybe that might be a question for the lawyers, but I would assume everybody here would want residents first on everything that goes on.
It hasn't been, so.
No, I'm just saying, I agree. I think everybody else would agree to that.
But if you guys, anyone remembering that before the fall, we helped them, they had their thoughts, so we could jump into it.
What does the ordinance
Or
say?
email before meeting in the fall.
Did you read the ordinance say now about running? I mean, right in the beginning, it said what the requirements were you had to.
Includes a commitment to operate for the upcoming season. But what is that? If I, that's, I guess, a better definition, a commitment to operate up to the license agreement, meaning.
Or actually operate.
Well, I mean, so say he admitted not to get this, but he said he didn't need the 2 scheduled trips.
Right.
That wasn't relevant to his operation. So
Well-
you could,
We have our ordinance here and I recommend that we all review it. We don't have a meeting next month, do we?
we do.
Oh,
Last one.
we could bring up some issues at the June meeting. Something to think about over the summer, see how things go. And, be ready in the fall to make some, additions or corrections.
I mean, in a way, he's doing us a favor because he's not taking up parking, but, do that, get that.
Well, parking is a major issue.
no, next.
Oh, next meeting.
I was actually gonna ask Howie to,
Okay. Sounds good.
Donna have anything to say about parking?
I think that it's a good idea to have parking on the street we discussed, but if no one else does, it's not a problem for me. I just think it's a good solution. It's a safe solution. And maybe getting the opinion of the town parking committee and the police department who oversees that committee wouldn't be a bad idea. But it's too late for this year anyway, isn't it?
So I reached out to David Kearns, our current police chief, and he says that we couldn't put parking there without having a sidewalk in place. There is not a parking spot that is painted in town that doesn't have a safe access sidewalk next to it. Putting parking spaces there without that is a liability for the town. There are places that people are allowed to park at times that are not painted. That takes the liability away from the town. But if we're gonna paint them and call them town parking spots, we would have to put a sidewalk in.
Yeah, so that's good. What's what I was hoping to do is to consult the chief and see what he said about that. I'm all for a sidewalk. I think it would be wonderful if people had better access to the marina. And I feel like it doesn't, someone had mentioned that it pushes the parking problem out to the neighborhood. But I think in fact, when they took away the parking from the street, because there was legitimate parking there in the past, when they took that away, it actually added to the problem of the marina. So I'd be all for having sidewalks and parking on that street in the future, if that's acceptable to others. I do think it's a good idea, and I think it'd be great for people, especially for farmers market.
How many spots were we talking about?
Yeah.
Wasn't there only like 5 or
It-
5?
I measured the street, and it's approximately 600 feet of parking room. Now, I don't know how many you would put in there, but even if we added 10 or 12 spots, or even a half a dozen spots really close to the marina, I think it would take the pressure off, and it would be sort of, I think, in my opinion, it would be inclusive of the neighborhood as opposed to, a completely separate entity. I think that people would love to walk on a sidewalk safely to, I mean, I would, I do from from my house. It's a little farther, but I think it would be a nice addition to the town. I mean, that's just my opinion.
We reference that to the parking committee.
I think the parking committee made their statement, it's a committee, it's not my statement. That they just didn't feel that it was a good idea to ask for more parking in the town. And that was just the committee's, I can't defend it one way or another. But if you want personal opinions, I think we can open that up.
Okay.
Wow, not on that road, but I was wondering if we could ask the highway department to actually create parking spaces where the farmer's market is. Cause a lot of people don't realize that's a parking area, and you go by and places jam, but that whole area is. And it's farmer's market, I mean, they block it off anyway. But other days, people could park there.
I think what we originally said, if I remember correctly, is we was gonna let it float for a year or two and see how it was used before it was painted.
Yeah,
But it's been a couple years, so
yeah,
I agree what you're saying, because there is, if they put in like on the opposite side of the street,
yeah,
diagonal parking,
yeah.
you could get quite a few cars in there, then farmers market day, hey,
Will they
no,
block it off now
no
anyway?
parking, and we'll put in concessionaires.
Yeah,
And you'd have to look at, so it'd have to be the other way, so you'd be backing into the, you know what I mean, you'd have to go in, turn around, to park in there.
That's, yeah, you
You know what
would,
I mean? Cause
That's
you have to
okay.
back into that, yeah, that's right, but you just have to. You have to go in by the marina and come back around to park in that,
Why?
because you can't back out.
It'll follow
the
traffic.
Traffic.
well, you could put 90-degree parking in there.
I think you would have to do
Right.
90-degree parking rate even
But-
to make it so
Yeah.
the farmer's market
yeah.
wasn't a complete disaster.
Yeah.
But the road's plenty wide there
Yeah,
that I think somebody could back out of
I
the
mean-
spot and not be in the road.
But per DOT standards, you can't
I
just
would-
put it off that way.
I would speak on the parking committee's behalf without having a meeting and saying we would be in favor of doing.
We
strips.
already voted on it too.
Oh,
We did the
oh, we
sign.
did?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
That was
recall.
part of it.
Oh, okay, I
Let's,
thought.
I'll tell you how we should do that is, promote it to the highway department and
Make a
say,
motion and
make a
I'll,
motion, because
make a
it
phone
would
call.
solve, it would actually alleviate a huge problem right now.
Yeah, thanks for.
Motion to ask Public Works to.
Put in 90-degree diagonal parking, right?
Can you have 90-degree diagonal?
Compliant parking.
Compliant. Well, whatever.
Degrees on the diagonal.
Let's drop the word diagonal.
Yeah.
So one other thing,
Parking spaces.
It's the
so those spaces, should they be a little bit larger for larger vehicles?
No, forget it.
But the ones they put out there today are for all small cars. I
That's
mean,
right.
it's-
Well, somebody only has small cars.
Well, sure, Make them the size of the regular kind of.
Standard spot.
Well, it's just, I just said
That's what I would say.
compliant, whatever compliance is for a parking spot on the end of the road.
Everyone understand the motion?
Yeah.
Scratching the word diag. Scratch the word diag. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Gary,
And I have another suggestion.
go for it.
How about a directional sign that towards the gray cow? When they're full,
So. The PD is making a map to put near their kiosk and everything to help. Direct people to Gray Cow.
Yeah.
So I think that's already happening.
but there should be a sign there that's somewhere at the bottom of the hill that says. Oh, parking, pointing.
One
People
step
aren't gonna-
at a time.
But I think that is part of his map, cause I had actually had the conversation with him today.
Yeah,
And he told me about the map he was having that put up that was talking about where to go for overflow parking. They're working on it.
yeah,
So I think it's already kind of in the works.
but to put a kiosk, that's how, I mean, it's gotta be out there in front.
Yeah, I know, but he said that they were putting a map up too, so.
I gotta say, I'm very pleased with this thought about putting parking there because it's gonna be a huge impact on alleviating some of the
Well,
long-term day workers and stuff like that.
yeah, well, last time, I mean, I've had to park up there a couple times last summer.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't know if you folks are aware right now, but we
And
only
also,
have to be downstairs in dispatch from 7 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon.
Just a minute, Donna.
I have a question.
Go for it.
One of the times when, a bunch of the times when I was observing the farmer's market for the parking study and checking spots like we were all asked to do, most of the time I found people parking, that bus circle, half circle, for lack of a better description, where it's like buses only.
yeah,
Many people would park there and leave their cars. And only one person was legitimate. She was a handicap person and the handicap spots were empty, but she parked there and she said, I'm handicapped. And so that was, I think handicapped people should park wherever they can safely do that. I have no problem with her. But several of the other people said, oh, I'm just running to get a few things. And they would constantly leave, yeah, because we're all running to get a couple, that's what the farmer's market is about, to get a few things. And they would all, the whole line of vendors at the end of there's that half circle, and they would park their car there and they would leave it. And there was a parking attendant there occasionally also, and she had an awful time getting people to move their cars. They would just give her, lip, basically. And they were, annoying and very loud about it. Is there anything we could do to accommodate, like make that during the farmer's market, make that a handicap spot only, or put up a no parking sign right there to remind these people, so it's not a constant hassle for oversight?
hard to deal with entitled people.
Yeah. Entitled.
It's,
Well, there's no parking.
they're mandated to have that parking attendant there from the PD, which they always do.
Yeah, and they're hassling that person.
Now, I know she takes some really tough ones, but she has a radio, and if she has a serious issue, she can call an officer to come assist her.
Does she have a
Yeah.
ticket?
Has ticket writing ability, yes, I think
So
so.
maybe if it's okay with you, could you maybe speak with her and empower her or encourage her, or,
I think it would be a really good conversation for the parking committee to have with Chris War in their next meeting, which he is coming to, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Something
I would
just-
say,
The head of the parking for Bar Harbor and Mount Desert.
Okay.
And if relay this information to him, that, she's being
Harassed.
abused. almost
she's being
by
harassed.
people
I was
doing the wrong thing.
I was being
Right.
harassed regarding the parking, my contribution to the parking survey. I was harassed, and
She wrote me a ticket.
Did
Tons.
she?
That's, you parked in an illegal spot without a trailer.
I'm just saying, I paid my fine.
All right,
But I think that's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, we can bring that to Chris for sure.
See if he can empower her some more somehow
Right.
or help
Somehow,
her.
or encourage her to not hesitate to write these people, because she's very nice, and they're not. I've seen that firsthand and absorbed it myself. They were really rude.
She's employed by the police department, right?
Yeah, she works
Yeah.
for Bar.
And she doesn't, she should communicate to them, I would
She may, but
Well, I think if they hear it from the other end too, you know, it'll
Yeah.
reinforce.
Yeah.
We can do that for sure.
Okay, great. Thanks.
we got about 10 minutes left. I don't know, did you have a spiel?
The only thing there were two things I was gonna bring up, two more things. And the first was that we're meeting with Chris Wharf at our next meeting. And that was mostly to try to button down what he believes is a good way to enforce the overnight parking. You know, like what's he gonna do for patrolling it and how often, and what kind of metrics can we measure from that? So that's the first thing. And now we'll bring up the other thing about, you know, empowering.
And I can tell you that the chief actually brought up without me even asking about it this morning when we were talking about something else, that they're gonna do a lot more this year.
Correct. Yeah.
He's supportive.
Yeah, well, that's encouraging, you know, so that's great. So I think, yeah, from the top down is fantastic. Awesome. And then the other thing that I was gonna bring up that Chris has told me not to.
Well, you can, but we're gonna discuss it next meeting.
Okay, I've been working with Chris about figuring out the mooring priority list based on residents. And so this is the new draft of that.
Is it the one you emailed me?
Yeah, it sure is, but just in case, you know. So this is what we're considering.
Unfortunately, I can't see that. Will you be able to sort of summarize for me?
Yeah, everything's the same up until number 3.
Well,
I mean, from the old one, but go ahead.
I'll read it.
Thank you.
Donna.
Yeah, thank you. And it's also good for the benefit of the people who might watch this recording at some later date.
Item 1 is existing moorings. This is, mooring priorities. Existing moorings. Owner renewing the permit provided such owner shall presently own a boat or reasonably expect to own such within the existing registration period. Item B, town-owned transient rental moorings. The number to be determined by the select board. That means how many transient moorings, okay? And item C, owner changing series. Now, the sub-portion of that, shorefront property owners in front of their property immediately adjacent to the frontage. If they own at least 100 acres of shorefront,
100 acres?
100 feet. And the mooring fits into the mooring plan. And the next subsection would be new moorings provided for or to established or maintaining an overall mooring distribution of 80% residents and 20% non-residents. Okay? And priorities would go as follows. Residential commercial fishermen. B, residential commercial operators. C, residential pleasure craft. D, non-resident commercial fishermen. E, non-resident commercial operators. F, non-resident pleasure craft. And the final subsection is application for more than one mooring, and then houseboats.
I thought houseboats were easily done.
I don't think.
They're still in our ordinance.
That's good.
Well, we can take that out. That's easy.
So this is a more, ordinance change we'd have to do, right?
Yes.
These are recommended changes, okay?
And I just want to say that the purpose really of this, at least in my mind, is to allow our residents to have greater access to the harbor rather than non-residents. And And we're well within the limits of the law, like, we're doubling.
I think you addressed a lot of things that needed to be addressed.
Okay,
Okay.
And
Any other
before-
comments?
Before we start this in the fall, I'll have a pretty good, percentage of what is what by
right,
then. Cause
Yeah.
we're still pulling in moorings from out of the harbor, which in my opinion will count in the total.
okay. Yeah, this was specific for harbors and not out of harbors.
Yes,
So, but I understand. You work the numbers the way you work them. This is still gonna be better for.
yeah, I think we're way oversaturated right now. I would guess 40+%
There you go.
non-resident.
Yeah,
There's one other thing I'd like to bring up. Potential, and this is a more in priority, a potential for the installation of more floats in the harbor. Because
Doubles.
doubles. I'm a firm believer in, the layout could be expanded. The mooring floats can accommodate up to, you could accommodate up to 4 boats on one float, if it was a 40-foot float. Small boats, they don't require the swing room. And if you go up on the Astor terraces and take a picture right now of the harbor, you can see a perfect example of what it looks like.
If you double it a whole lot, you have that many more dinghies.
Well, that's the possibility, but you go to Marblehead Harbor and you don't even use a dinghy. You have to have a launch service.
But we don't have that.
Yes, we do.
Well, yeah, we do. Well, some of the time.
Well, I'm just saying, there's always this demand for moorings. I mean, you can knock it down because we don't have launch, a dinghy space. Well, we could all jab one of those rubber rafts with a jackknife. Twice as much dinghy space.
Well, you're saying, you
You're
add,
not recommending that.
I'm not recommending it.
And John's actively cleaning up quotes that shouldn't be there,
So
people's usages.
Right,
everyone that we found that was over there permitted has been notified and had positive response from all of them.
the
There you
ones
go.
that are derelict, kind of.
Most of them, the reason there's more there is because they have upgraded the floats that were in rough shape and put new ones in, and they haven't gotten rid of the rough shape ones yet.
so they're just like attached to it or something.
They're there,
So
so
they give you more space to use, it's kind of convenient.
well, I'm gonna ask, we only have a few more minutes, John, but are you opposed to having more floats in the harbor?
no, we need people that are willing to give up a single point mooring to make more room for, we can't tell somebody that they have to give up their mooring and become owner of a half of a float or something like that. I don't see how we could force that issue.
Is there a transition float? For example, someone has a float over in 300 whatever. And they wanna get a mooring over in 300 whatever, and they wanna get a float with someone else. So they can't just say, I'm gonna get a float, because they gotta give that up then, and what are they gonna do? So because you can't put a float over there, you need a space where all the float.
We don't currently have any areas where we could just start putting a few.
That's my question.
Well, we could if we reorganize.
Yeah.
A lot of the moorings, like I say, take a walk up on the terraces and look down on the harbor, and there's a lot of voided space down there that a float could go in.
And there's room to, we gotta look at it, there's possibilities to realign some of the floats. Once they're cleaned up and people are using what they're permitted for.
I'm just saying it's very efficient use of the harbor space.
And all I'm trying to say is you need one so people can move to it, and then once you get that one, then you can make more space again.
I'm kind of thinking we took the privilege of moorings away, because I've had a float for a long time, and at one time they were all moorings over there, so.
Okay, yeah, maybe you could.
I think it can be mandated.
But I like his idea though, to promote your idea, Rick, is if we clean up what we have going on over there, I think there's room to put in a float to encourage that transition.
Even the town could put in a float. I mean, the town has floats right now. I mean, we're talking the 20 series boats up here. They're taking up a lot of mooring space and floats would go in there very nicely.
But you get in, you know, the field of dreams,
Yeah,
you know, if you build it, they will come. I believe that we have to have that transition. I think that's.
Well, then you're also gonna have I don't think you can ignore the skiffs that, you know, punts that people are gonna row out there. You can't fit another one in there right now,
I agree, that has to be.
you know? Now, you might open 5 spaces if you got rid of the ones with it, too big outboards, but they're just gonna go get something else.
And then you might have to talk parking.
Yeah,
But you also, Jim, you also have people that have float dinghies down there that don't have moorings that use it.
Yeah,
So, I mean, a permit, if you having a permit for your mooring to have a dinghy.
yeah.
Like the commercial side would alleviate a lot of that, because some people just buy skiffs just small enough, so they never have to have a mooring, they don't have to pay to store it there. That would free up a lot.
Or a kayak that sits there and sinks all summer.
Correct, I mean, that's to go to, well, that's something that has to be enforced, a permit, you get here, one mooring, here's your, you know what I mean, here's your sticker, here's your skiff permit.
But
The
if you
only,
go,
the only problem with permitting those that I see is in the summertime when you've got, you know, 30, 40 moorings that we rent for transient during the summer. Those people are coming, going summer day, some 2 or 3 days, some a week. You know, there's gonna be so many of those down there. There's no way you can
Yeah.
be able to give them all a permit to
You
put
can give them
on.
a waterproof tag, a red tag, whatever, when they rent the mooring, they could be issued a wax tag to put on that permits them to be there.
I think it would be a lot to try to track that. Not that it can't be done, but I just think it would be an amazing thing to try to track.
A challenge.
Yes.
it's very challenging, folks, and we need to leave.
5:32.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Aye. Thank you, everybody. Not gonna have it in Niagara Park.
Yeah.